Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Mitchell Swan. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. I am filling in again for Marc this glorious Monday. In the studio with me today, I have Tim Bryant, and we're going to go through some news for the next hour. But before we start, Chastity, how was your weekend?
It was wonderful.
What'd you do?
It stayed outside as much as I could.
Oh, this is some great weather.
We were at the lake, so we were on our spring break this week. So
well,
it was a nice, relaxing trip.
My wife Leslie keeps giving me the weather update. Like, you better enjoy this. The heat is coming.
Oh.
So.
I know. Could you believe it was so hot yesterday? It was like 86, I think my thermometer was reading, and then I thought, gosh, it's so early in April to be so hot. What's it going to be like in August?
Well, I'd like that we could open the windows last night.
I'm excited, though, yes. I'm not going to complain.
The floor wasn't yellow after doing it either.
Facts.
So we've got Tim in with us. How are you, Tim?
Everything I know about is good. How are you?
I hope you have some stuff to still talk about after your morning show today.
Yeah. 6 till 10, Georgia's morning news, and that includes 8 till 10 here on Q92.3. So yeah, I'm right back. I got like an hour break. My show ends at 10. Get home a few minutes after 10. Get the dogs out. Let them do their thing. Put them back up, and here I am. So.
Well, you're leaving everything on the field today.
Yeah.
You won't have another original thought till tomorrow.
Well, I better, because I'm moderating this evening. I got to leave here, get home, get a little rest. Then I go to moderate in Athens a Clark County School Board Candidates Forum.
Now, you seem to enjoy doing those moderations, don't you?
Can I speak truly about that? I don't know how many dozens of them I've done over the years, and I mean that literally. That I don't know. I've lost count. I have no idea how many I've done. I began to notice two things about doing them. One is I never look forward to them. I don't know, why did I say yes? I always say yes. I don't think I've ever said no. I always say yes to moderating the candidates forum, and I never look forward to it. I'm not looking forward to it now. It's just one more thing I got to do tonight. And once I get there and we do it and it's done, I'm so glad I do it. I'm so glad I've come to expect it. That turned out to be really good. I had a good time tonight, and I do enjoy doing them. I just never look forward to them.
My experience with you doing those, you ask good probing questions that normally a lot of the people out there are like, thank goodness for asking that question. So.
I have no idea. Sometimes, and it runs the gamut. Sometimes I'm just sitting there winging it. I'm making things up. Sometimes people think I have all these copious notes and I'm all well prepared and stuff. I'm usually just winging it. I'm shooting from the hip, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
If you didn't know, this is the theme of today's show, winging it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just want you to know. Now, we did get a text earlier this morning from a common friend, Jeff Hood. He's like, man, Tim is on fire right now. And apparently we have a candidate running for mayor, Tim Denson, over there in Clark County, and he responded to a question about whether he was going to support ICE efforts to deport people. I'm going to pass it over.
Yeah, okay. You got 5 candidates running for mayor in Athens, replacing a term-limited incumbent, Kelly Gertz, the incumbent. You got 5 candidates running for mayor in Athens. Now, let me quickly, because what's going to happen May 19th, with the early voting starting 2 weeks from today, what's going to happen around the state, and in most places in Georgia, are primaries, right? We're going to choose a nominee for governor and senator and so forth. In Athens, and in some of these governments, a handful of them around the state with unified city-county governments, these are the elections. In Athens, for example, we are electing a mayor on May 19th, or if necessary, a runoff in June.
Really?
Yes, that is. There's not going to be any general election in November for mayor of Athens. We're deciding that now. So just to get that out of the way. It has to do with the way the law is drawn up regarding unified governments, which is what Athens is and has been for a little more than 30 years now. Okay, so you got 5 candidates running for mayor, and they run the gamut politically. I mean, there are those on the right, and then there's Tim Denson way over here on the Zoran Mamdani left. Now, let me preface that by saying this. He is a genuinely nice guy, shirt off his back kind of guy. He'd also take the shirt off your back, which is kind of the problem. But regarding, to the ICE matter, the question that was posed, and it's a campaign video that he put out, and make note of that, a campaign video. He wants you to see this. I did not pirate anything.
So this is a promise. Like, if you elect me, this is what I'm going to do.
The question was, and it originally focused on what they're dealing with in Social Circle, right? The chance that there might be an ICE detention facility in Social Circle. Well, if somebody proposed something like that for Athens, what would you do? And he goes on to explain how he would fight it tooth and nail as mayor of Athens. And all kind of promises, a promise to not cooperate with ICE.
My gosh.
Now, he understands, he served on the Athens-Clarke County Commission. He understands that is in violation of federal law and is now, as a result of some work by our Georgia legislature, that will be in violation of state law. When ICE, or when you are arrested and there's reason for the sheriff's office, the police department, whatever, to think that there may be an immigration issue with you, ICE is notified. That's the law. And so he's not saying I'm going to thumb my nose at the law. That's not what he's saying. He's I'm going to work within the law to resist ICE as much as I can. People hear that, and I spent some time with that on my program this morning, Georgia's Morning News, and people hearing that in Monroe, and people hearing that in Greensboro, and Royston, and Millersville, and the other places, Washington, where our show airs, I said, wow, that's really going to hurt him. Yeah, but you're not in Athens. I am. And that's going to help him in Athens. That's not something he has to run from. That's something he runs toward.
Understand.
He's thinking, and he's probably correct in his thinking, that is going to help him. He's not trying to get my vote. He's trying to get the votes of the 65% of the electorate in Athens that votes for the bluest candidate.
Well, the other danger there is, speaking of running towards, you're going to get all these other illegals that are trying to avoid ICE running to Athens. Let me get out of
sanctuary city.
Yes.
In every way except name. It is against state law to be a sanctuary city, however defined, and you have to define these terms. And that's the argument, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. Do you think about the Ibarra brothers, Jose Ibarra and his brother, whose name escapes me? They originally come into the country in El Paso and make their way to New York, whether the city or upstate someplace, I don't know. But they're in New York for a time. I think it's a city. And then they settle in Athens. What did they do, throw a dart at the map? No. They looked around. Where might we be welcome?
They made an intelligent decision.
And yes, here's the Athens-Clarke County Commission with this statement they put out, this resolution that they passed. Yay, immigrants, boo, Trump. And that was essentially the essence of the statement, the resolution. And they're not dumb.
It's a risk-reward decision.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Athens. Now, they get to Athens and they commit, Jose especially, a knucklehead crime or two, shoplifting, that kind of thing, enough to get them on the radar, enough that had somebody been paying attention would have led to an ICE detainer. There was no such detainer.
Wow. And when you look at surrounding counties, now Walton County, but Monroe, the city specifically, we're growing at a rate that exceeds the growth rate of Georgia. It's exploding. Look over at Coney County. Mm-hmm. So much construction, so much development. It's growing. And you're already struggling. How do I bring in more bodies because of all this construction and infrastructure? I'm absorbing more people and then still trying to maintain a decreased slide with crime. You want to keep it safer, And it seems to me that this gentleman, Tim Denson, is not thinking that through.
No, he is one of the ones. Now, he was on the Athens-Clarke County Commission, and again, he served 1 or 2 terms, I think maybe 2, on the Athens-Clarke County Commission. I stand to be corrected on that. But while he was on the commission, he was part of a defund the police movement, a literal defund the police movement. This was back during the George Floyd Summer of Love nonsense. His proposal was to reduce the budget for the Athens-Clarke County Police Department by 50% over a 10-year period. That is effectively defunding a police department. That is what he wanted to do. Now, he talked about this in a forum a few weeks ago. Well, yeah, but I was going to, what do they call it? They've invented a phrase. They call it a wraparound service. Yeah, what we're not spending on cops, we'll spend on social workers or whatever. That was the plan. But again, it was a plan to defund the police. Nobody's talking about defund the police now. Even Joe Biden recognized how politically untenable that statement was. But now they take out that angst on ICE. ICE is the new bad guy.
And you think of the biggest moneymaker, the biggest industry in Athens has to be the University of Georgia.
Well, it's the economic engine for sure, yeah.
And you look at the safety of those kids. Mm-hmm. and you wonder, does the president of UGA have any input and say, hey, Tim, come over here. We are, in fact, going to support ICE and keep these streets clean. I would think that's where a lot of influence would come from.
Yeah, I don't know what's being said in back channels. I'm not privy to those conversations. I did note that in the aftermath of the Laken Riley murder, I don't want to say he was silent, University of Georgia President Jerry Moorhead, but the statements were all thoughts and prayers kind of statements, and not getting into the political components of this. And, well, we shouldn't politicize this. The hell we shouldn't. We should politicize it to the end of the earth, not to gain in any kind of partisan way, but to prevent the next one. And we didn't prevent the next one. Go ask Sheridan Gordon's family up there in Chicago. She was a young student from at Loyola.
That's
same,
right.
Almost exactly the same circumstance. She's walking with friends late night along the riverfront there, or the lakefront there in Chicago, and is killed by who? An illegal from Venezuela, who had been on law enforcement radar multiple times, arrested for violent knucklehead crimes, and nobody followed up because in Chicago, in Illinois, the mayor, the governor they were making it a point to not cooperate with ICE, to actively obstruct ICE. And now the young woman's dead. And that's exactly what Tim Denson is campaigning to do in Athens. Now, no, he doesn't. He has a daughter himself. He does not want people killed. But that's going to be the end result of it.
Well, it'll certainly be less safety. How's that?
Yes.
We're going to have less safety over there. Speaking of safety, we had a failed peace talk over in Pakistan this weekend between J.D. Vance and Iranian officials. Thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts is, first of all, let's define failure and success in terms of peace talks with the Iranian regime, or what is left of it. If they had, we got a deal, we're going to sign off on all 21 points, where can I put my name on the contract? If they had done that, so what? I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have trusted it. No one should. These people are not trustworthy. They are not reliable. I think you're the military expert. You tell me, but it seems to me that the benefit of a 2-week ceasefire, and I guess we're, a few days into it, and it is evidently still to some extent holding. The idea is to, or at least the opportunity is to, everybody take a break, catch your breath. We'll restock and replenish those armaments that we have spent out on over Iran over the last month or so, and in a couple of weeks we'll be jacked up and ready to go. The Iranians doing the same thing on their end. It's a pause in hostilities. This only ends in a couple of different ways. Optimally, to me, it ends with somebody other than fundamentalist Islam running the government of Iran.
And that would be the best possible outcome. I look at this too. I think you're right when you say it's a pause in the hostilities, because it does give the civilians a chance to kind of regroup, relocate if they think they're in a target-rich environment, and maybe let cooler heads start to really think through. Now you have a lot of back channels probably on both sides talking, saying,
J.D. Vance walked out there yesterday, did 3.5 minutes, and here's what happened in 21 hours, and the president went on one of the shows or other, and all of that is for public consumption, our consumption. You know better than most that we really have no idea what's being actually done and said behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that they're in an absolute position of weakness myself. This
they being the
me,
Iranians?
Being the Iranians, there's an old case study we do, the Peloponnesian War back in Greece between Sparta and Athens. And what it was, the analogy is that you had the traditional elephant fighting the traditional whale. And if you have that, who wins? And Sparta would be the elephant. Okay. Huge land army. You don't want to fight the Spartans, and you've seen everything in the movies about them and how they raise the kids from age 8.
Thermopylae and all of that.
Yeah. All of that. And then you had the artist merchants over in Greece, and they just had a tremendous navy. They're going all over the world. So how does a land-based force defeat a naval force, and vice versa? Now, they shared some geography, so they were going to rub up. Now, Sparta had a navy, but it was very, very small. If the Athenians said, we sunk it all, they'd be like, well, we didn't lose that much. That was never a pillar of strength. And vice versa. Athens had a military ground force, but they weren't robust. Now it ends with Sparta actually winning in the end. But the parallel for me is, if I look at Iran today, they have a very strong ground force. they can't break and run because it's Iran. We're immobile. This is where we are. And I'm being now faced with a maritime force and certainly air as well now because of development and technology. But we can only go after the Strait of Hormuz and try to secure that because they still have Pakistan to their rear, Afghanistan to their rear, other countries that might be more helpful to them. They have access now to Russia and China that could come in as allies and give them supply. So we're not really doing a traditional naval blockade like you could do, say, on Taiwan and just say no shipping's coming in. They're going to get resupplied somehow. And so now it becomes a war of patience and attrition. And do we use all of our rockets, all of our treasure trying to keep the Strait of Hormuz open? And when we look and read that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer of the UK, is unwilling to participate, this isn't just a military conflict. This is an economic crisis now for the world with the price of oil going up, the need of fertilizer, ammonia, urea, all of these things that keep the world going. You think just out of, hey, I don't support the war, but I will help end it. That would be great if they showed up for something like that.
Sure.
So we'll see where that goes.
Well, there's no indication they will. I mean, you're right. If it reaches some pressure point where they feel they have to, but I can't imagine what that pressure point for some guy like Starmer or some guy like Macron. Can you imagine in your wildest imaginings that we get anything by way of support from any of those people?
Anything meaningful.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's a supply ship. It'll be in the Indian Ocean. Come out for popsicles or something. All right. Well, you're listening to the Marc McMain Show. I'm Mitchell Swan in here in the studio with Tim Bryant, and we will be right back.
Recently, I was on a flight writing on a legal pad, and the man next to me struck up a conversation. "Are you an author?" he asked. I said, "No, I'm actually a preacher." Well, the look on his face was priceless. How would you feel if you're stuck sitting next to a preacher for several hours? Surprisingly, though, we had a good conversation. He asked me several questions about Jesus, and I told him that the Bible says if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Christianity is worthless. Ever thought about that? You see, the truthfulness of Christianity hinges on whether Jesus died and rose from the grave. There's great evidence for it, and I'm one of the billions of Christians around the globe who believes that the resurrection really happened. If Jesus did conquer death, then he's worthy of your trust. If he didn't, reject him because he's a fraud. I believe he really conquered death. What do you believe? This is Brian Wright, speaking right from my heart.
For devotions, visit rightfromtheheart.org.
The Greene County Rodeo is back for 2026 with exciting rodeo action Friday and Saturday, April the 24th and 25th at the Covered Arena on Sewell and Smith Drive in Greensboro. Bring the family out for all the thrills of bull riding, steer wrestling, girls barrel racing, team roping, bronc riding, and more. The kids will love the boot trample and more. Don't miss this year's Greene County Rodeo, Friday and Saturday, April the 24th and 25th at 8 p.m. in Greensboro. Don't miss it.
Is your home's AC ready for spring? Call Tony Beck Heating and Cooling for tune-ups or to install a new heating and cooling system. As a Lennox Premier dealer, we provide expert service, and it's an investment that pays off with lower energy bills. For a limited time, purchase a new qualifying Lennox system for up to $1,800 in rebates, or qualified buyers make no payments, incur no interest for 12 months when financing a new Lennox system. Contact Tony Beck Heating and Cooling at 770-466-2924 or beckheating.com today. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. HVAC license number CN001627.
Welcome back, my friends. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on 92.3 FM, WMOQ. And again, I am just sitting in the studio with Tim Bryant, our good friend, and we were talking about the Strait of Hormuz and where things may go over there.
Have you ever seen this? Have you ever been in that part of the world?
Yes, I was there in the first Gulf War when I was stationed in Saudi Arabia, and then I went back in 2004 when I was in Iraq.
I mean, okay, it's obviously, I've seen it on a map. I have. I mean, it's just a massive waterway. What are some of the logistical things that would be tantamount to us to think about? Some things that we should know about the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, the Strait of Hormuz is 21 nautical miles wide, at its narrowest.
Okay.
I said the word wide, but at its narrowest. So,
And that's comparatively small.
that's tight. And
Okay.
because remember, there's going to be a lot of ballistic missiles that can make its way in there. There's going to be drones, of course. I don't know how many drones they have. I don't think anyone does. But if they shoot enough of them, it could overwhelm perhaps the anti-aircraft support of the ships involved. So that's one. The other thing is just keeping men on station on ships. I mean, you'd be surprised. Morale is not high. You get pretty upset when you're living, 18 inches. Your bunk's 18 inches from your buddies. You know, he's up. You can't even sit up. You're all sharing the showers and eating downstairs, and you haven't seen fresh air. Believe it or not, you can be on a ship for 2 weeks and be like, I didn't even go above deck to see sunlight yet. And so that wears down on the crew, but then also you've got to replenish it sometime. You got to get them more food, and helps to keep the food really good if that's the only thing they have for morale. And obviously fuel. We got these great aircraft carriers. Some of them are nuclear powered, the other vessels are not, the support ones. But you got to get fuel out there just for the aircraft, even though it's hey, I'm nuclear powered. Well, the aircraft isn't. So
they're not hybrid aircraft yet. No, we don't have
those. But then it comes into this, and I think this is where the human mind gets strained. You and I were talking how it can get difficult just being on the radio in your situation early in the morning, and for 2 hours you were just staying on top of your game, concentrating on the quality of your show and your thoughts.
In my case, 4 hours, but okay.
4 hours. Wow, I thought that included a replay. All right, so 4 straight hours. Thank you for coming in today. This is an overtime for you. But one of the things is when you're remaining in a state of readiness, you're trying to patrol, the Strait of Hormuz, keep it open, but you're concerned about mines, possibly submersibles of some sort. You're worried about missiles and drones. All of this stuff, your ship is at a heightened state of alertness, and you can't stay that sharp for 24 hours, non-stop. It's a battle rhythm where after a while you do get a little bit sloppy, and you can see sloppiness sometimes when you see some of our ships in the past have run ashore. We had a ship run ashore on Oahu, the most well-mapped reefs in the world, because we've been operating out of there since we were a whaling nation out of Nantucket. We pull into port there, and that's where our mantelpiece is. But the crew can get fatigued. And so for how long do you stay at that state of readiness? And once you get sloppy, they only have to get right once, right? So those are concerns I have there. And then obviously the other logistical concerns backing out. If you look at our bases in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Oman or Kuwait or UAE, they've taken some strikes. At what point are they going to say, hey, you know what? I want to talk about logistics. I want to talk about the refinery I just lost. I want to talk about my refueling transport facility where I load up ships. I like to talk about that stuff and how we get it back.
You were talking earlier, the Peloponnesian Wars, and I did not have any thought that I'd wake up this morning and end up discussing the Peloponnesian Wars, but a little more recent history in my own mind, a couple of conflicts that come to mind, and I thought of this the first day. The president is announcing that we're engaging in action against Iran, and it's going to be over in a matter of days. Then it's going to be a matter of weeks, and now it's going to be a few more weeks. And I'm just remembering my own history, Civil War history. The famous story that some, I don't even know who gets the credit for having said this, somebody in the Senate, U.S. Senate at that time, said, I could wipe up all the blood that'll be spilled in this war with a handkerchief. Oh. That was this thing will be over in a matter of days. And, of course, it was lasted 4 years, the bloodiest conflict in American history. Russia invades Ukraine. This is going to be over in a matter of a few weeks. Sure. Russia's too large, too much air, too much ground, too much of everything. They'll simply overwhelm the Ukrainians. Here we are, 5 going on 6 years later, with no end in sight. Every time
the Russians are surprised by that. They went to the peace table in 3 weeks, and we had ink on the contract with Ukraine, and then the Brits came in going, we're not on board with that.
Every time I hear anybody, whether it's my side or somebody else's side, talk about how quick and easy this military campaign is going to be, my antenna go up.
Well, one of the things we're reminded by Karl von Clausewitz, wrote a book, on war. Mm-hmm. He just reminds people, military operations are just an extension of politics.
Sure.
We're not doing this just to get a win on the board. We're doing it for a political goal. And at some point, you have to say, all right, to your point, I'd love to see that regime gone.
I think that's the only
That's the
good
best,
win. That's the only good
best
outcome.
moral outcome.
Yeah,
And the
because,
people
I
can
mean,
be
if you
Persian
don't,
again.
if we end this in some form or fashion, hey, we just got a peace deal, and we're still dealing with the mullahs, then all we've done is, after some expense and some great expense and some loss of life, all we've done is continue to kick the can down the road. And this is a president who says that after 47 years, we're not going to do that anymore.
And that would be a great moral one. What if the actual outcome is just to keep the U.S. the supreme world currency again and be the petrodollar? Because I put in a book back in 2015 that it is such an existential threat if the BRICS actually pulled off getting most of the world to reduce their appetite for our debt and for our dollars to actually, because when you're the world currency reserve, we think of it as the petrodollar. Yes, all oil is trading in it, but it's also all global commodities.
Everything measured against it all.
everything. You're importing grain. That's going to be measured in U.S. dollars. So I do think we need to get off it, but it's like a train. You can't go from being totally dependent, going 100 miles an hour, and say, I'm just going to hit brakes hard, because you're going to go right off the rails. We have to find a way to kind of wane down off of that and adjust. But I think part of it is just to keep us in the driver's seat for how oil is exchanged. We go into Venezuela, they're producing about 12% of the world's oil, because it has the biggest oil deposits in the world. And China was getting a great deal of their oil from them. They want to trade in whatever the BRIC currency will be. And then Iran signed up for this not too long ago. Well, they've been in it they've been in it for over a year. And they're all for that as well. And so by taking out Iran and Venezuela,
Weakening China.
We're really going after China. Yeah, we're making a point there with that. You're right. Let's see around the corner. And again, he will never get credit for this, but Donald Trump seems to be the kind of guy who can see around the corner. Now, admittedly, he brings a lot of his own troubles onto himself, but yeah, if at the end of the day I hesitate, you might disagree, I hesitate to call China a superpower. They are certainly trending in that direction, shall we say. Yeah, sure.
And so if we nip that in the bud, and by, weakening Venezuela, weakening Cuba, taking out Iran, you do those three things, then you've effectively boxed China into a really bad place.
Oh, they're in an awful position right now. I do call them a world power because they have such... Now, they can't project power maybe all the way over to us. There was a time during my career in the Navies, we were waiting for them to show up at RIMPAC. It's a big joint naval exercise around the island of Oahu. They were 2 days late. No joke. They sailed past it. That's how bad their maritime skills are. They were on their way to San Diego. They totally missed us. They did a boat turn, and we held on station until they got there.
It's a fascinating history. I read this not long ago, that about the time of Columbus, China had a massive 10,000, 20,000 ship navy. And whatever the empirical decision was just call it home. Just bring the Navy home and enter into what was effectively 400 or 500 years of isolationism. And they became effectively a third world country. And only in the last century have they begun to emerge with that, specifically since World War II.
Well, historically, they were not a maritime nation. We call it the South China Sea. It's because we put that on maps. We were over there. Yeah. It's south of China, and it's part of the sea. They claim that's why it's called that, but it's not. The Parcel Islands, the Marshall Islands, all these islands that the French and the Dutch and the Germans and the Americans were claiming, they said those are our islands. And so, believe it or not, okay, let's go to court, and you prove the providence. Show me a book, a map, a painting, a song, a poem, anything where you knew that was out there, and they produced nothing. They had no idea those islands were out there. So, but the reason I call them a superpower, in their region, I mean, they can control at least a third of the world, and certainly probably half the world's population just with their reach over there. You know, we've made a lot of promises to protect Korea and Japan and the Philippines and
Taiwan,
everybody, Australia, you know.
Yeah.
But now that the Chinese have control really over the Solomon Islands due to contracts that they've signed with them and development projects they're doing in the Solomon Islands, and that's a piece of earth that not just the Marines lost a lot of people on, but a lot of the Brits. We fought that island twice. And
in World War II.
In World War II, yeah, to reclaim that thing.
Right.
And now the Chinese have it. So, yeah, it's a crazy world some days. But if this drags on, you may see that the will of the people in Iran and the will of China particularly and Russia to say, you know what, they've been grinding us so hard up here in Ukraine, I'm going to give them their own meat grinder. And I'm going to start supporting Iran a bit, not because it serves me politically, other than it weakens the U.S.
us.
or makes us look diminished.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it becomes a matter of political will. And we're in such a place now, the political appetite's already waning. I mean, it was waning from the first day, and every increase in the gas price, it wanes a little more.
Sure. It was kind of hard to, well, we'll talk about the return of Artemis, too. But what a glorious event that was. But you wouldn't know it the way the news feeds are rolling through.
Sure. Yeah.
So, anyways, well, you're listening to Tim Bryant and Mitchell Swan on the Marc McMain Show here on WMOQ 92.3.
When looking for new shoes, the place to check out is K&D Shoes in Conyers. Family owned and operated for over 30 years, offering one of the largest selection of shoes for men, women, and for the kids. From name brands like Ariat, Rocky, Georgia Boot, Hey Dude, and others. You'll find everything from casual to work boots all under one roof. Be sure to see their great selection of outerwear from name brands like Carhartt, Ariat, and more. Need athletic shoes? Then see their great selection from brands like New Balance, Brooks, Reebok, Hoka, and more. Open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sunday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's K&D Shoes, 2250 Dogwood Drive in Conyers. Call 770-483-9037. Or to learn more and see their great selection, go to kndshoes.com.
Sometimes you can outgrow personal touch. Businesses are designed to do that, and sometimes businesses take quality over character. At Loganville Ford, we have a very rich history of integrity passed down through generations. Since 1961, Loganville Ford has been taking care of our community. That's what we do. We take care of you and your family. We have been family-driven, family-owned, and family-operated from the start, pushing families forward since 1961. Come see us at Loganville Ford, where people still matter. See us on Highway 78 in Loganville or LoganvilleFord.com.
I'm Miranda, founder of the Humane Society of Walton County. We're a community-funded no-kill shelter for homeless dogs and cats. On May 30th, we're raffling off a brand new 2024 Jeep Wrangler or $40,000 in cash. Tickets start at $30 each, with only $5,000 being sold. To purchase your tickets, visit humanewalton.org. You don't want to miss this chance to win a brand new 2024 Jeep Wrangler or $40,000 in cash, all benefiting the Humane Society of Walton County.
Welcome back, friends. This is Mitchell Swan sitting in with Marc McMain. And again, my guest today is Tim Bryant. Tim, welcome back from the break.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going to go next?
Well, you mentioned Artemis. Did you see? Were you locked in on this splashdown Friday evening?
I would not on the splashdown. I watched the launch. That was great. I saw a lot of the video and the reporting from up there as they're going around the moon. I mean, it's wonderful. You know, I got to watch the Apollo missions as a child. Now, a child, I mean, I'm 5. I have no appreciation of what's going on. My mother, who's Canadian, is like, Mitchell, get in here. You got to watch the TV. When I say TV, maybe it was a 15-inch screen,
right,
black and white,
console
fuzzy.
Thing, yeah.
Oh, it's got the the rabbit ears on top of it, and it's all fuzzy.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is historic. I'm like, I'm going outside. But to see that now, so many years later, you know, as
I said this on my program this morning. It's like being 10 years old again,
isn't it?
And some of the same things. I mean, I was a little bit surprised that and we were supposed to go out Friday night, We had tickets to an event, and no, we're staying home. Why? Because the thing's landing. This is my wife. We're going to watch that. Okay. And so I'm 10 years old again. And by 10, I was old enough to know what was going on and figure some of this out. My mom had let us stay up a couple of years earlier to watch, Neil Armstrong. And so I had a sense of what was going on. And then the thing comes back to Earth, and it was so much like what it was 50-plus years ago. The thing enters the atmosphere and all the heat, and then you get those 6 minutes of radio silence because there's no communication, no transmission that can penetrate that. And so you're sitting there. You don't know that those people, you don't even know if they're alive. You literally don't know that they're alive. And so, my goodness, at 5 minutes, 6 minutes, shouldn't we be hearing something by now? And finally the voice cracks in over the microphone and, hey, we're good. Okay, good. We can breathe now. And then you got to wait for the parachutes to open and all of that stuff. I was a little bit surprised at how little that had changed. That technology, we hadn't marched past that in 50-plus years. But it was such a sensation. It was like being 12 again to see all that.
Well, I think when you go back to technology, if you didn't watch something live at the time, you missed it. You didn't have YouTube like, hey, I'll run the replay later at my own convenience. Yeah. I remember watching, now this is tragic, was the Columbia shuttle when I was off at Marquette and I was between classes. It just had the TV on. Like, the Columbia is going to launch. And, of course, it, just exploded.
Columbia is the one that burned in the atmosphere over Texas.
Yes. Yeah, just ignited up. And so that hit you hard.
Sure.
And so you're watching that. That was one of my last space launch memories. And so watching this capsule return, of course, you'd be like, hey, did they survive it? So...
Now, I have this big, long speech, and I can spend all day talking about it. I think one of the great... I'll use the word tragedy, and not in the death sense, but I mean in the opportunity missed sense of the word. My dad, born 1915, as I mentioned, fought in World War II. He could tell you, growing up as a kid down in South Georgia, he could tell you what a big deal it was. If you happened to glance up and see an airplane flying over, you talked about it for weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. He lived, over the course of his lifetime, long enough to see a country get tired of going to the moon. Not just to get there, but to go there and a couple, 3 more times and you're tired of going to the moon. All of that in the span of one lifetime. Now, I'm 10 years old, and there's Neil Armstrong walking around on the moon. I wasn't even that old. I was 7 or 8. And I'm thinking, okay, in my 8-year-old mind, well, okay, there's the moon. We'll go to Mars, and by the time I'm a grown man, we'll be walking around on Neptune or something. I mean, I just thought we would keep going because that's what people have always done. We are explorers. Hey, what's over that ocean? I don't know. Let's go find out. I thought that was what we would do, and we shut it down.
Yeah, I remember. So we went back to the moon 5 more times. And then what else happened? Well, we couldn't get oil from the Middle East, and Iran was being jerks, and we're back in conflict. But, the world seemed so bright back then, like you could accomplish anything. Yeah. We developed the Challenger program, and all those great...
The space shuttle.
Boy, we decommissioned the space shuttle. I just forgot about it. Like, what the heck was that thing called
exactly.
again?
Now we got the International Space Station, where basically, and I mean, I'm sure there's great work being done, but you just got to bring you float around. Yeah. We're not going any place with it.
But we were kids. We watched Star Wars come out in 1977. And you're like, that's what it's going to be like
us.
by 2026.
We'll be Star Trek someday. And now we can't even... We had the Concorde to get me to London in 2 hours, and we don't even do that anymore.
That's right.
Where's my jetpack? That's what I thought we would have by now. I got into this social media thing the other day. I said, the greatest investment we can make as a country is in space travel. The return is so great. What did we ever get out of space travel? Holy smokes. The irony is that the guy who was arguing with me was typing on the internet. Really? Using technology that we have in large part because of what we learned through space exploration.
I remember when the Hubble telescope was put into space and people lost their minds. It cost like $1.5 billion, which was a lot of money back then. And they're like, that's ridiculous. We could have used all that money here on the ground and fed people. Yeah. And to your point, we did not launch $1.5 billion into space. That got spent here on Earth to get that into space. Yeah. That paid the scientists, the crews, the technicians, the facilities. Communities were built by that investment.
Yep. Entire careers, people with families and retirements and all the rest of it. I saw this figure the other day, this Artemis effort cost roughly 3 times more in and out cost roughly 3 times more than the money that was wasted, utterly, completely wasted on Somali daycare centers in Minnesota.
Strong point.
We have spent roughly the same amount of money on Artemis that they have spent on high-speed rail in California. Now, the difference is we got people to the moon and back with Artemis. They haven't run a train yet in California. So you want to talk about wasting money? Well, we could feed all these people and we could do all of this. Tell that to the people who are throwing the money away in places like California and Minnesota.
Well, to your point about us stopping in the 70s, people don't appreciate, too, why did it take us so long to get back? It's not necessary we couldn't draw it on a drafting table and come up with plans on how to put Artemis into the air. But all the support facilities that build such, those things, those companies that were manufacturing those lunar landing modules for the Apollo missions, they folded. They went out of business, or they started making something else. Hey, I make metal fencing now, whatever it is. You can't just call them back 50 years and say, hey, make me another engine. Like, what are you talking about? And it's different. I can't do that. You had to wait for the infrastructure to come back as well. Once you actually made the commitment to go, no one's keeping that industry warm.
And space is, at the end of the day, and I know, but we have treaties that say we can't use any of this for military. Treaties all over the place. Space is the high ground, and somebody is going to occupy it. Who would you prefer? If not us, who would you rather occupy the high ground that is space? It had darn well better be us.
And China's looking to do that as well.
Absolutely.
They're actually making some heavy investments. Speaking of technology, this just popped in my head. Did you see that robot dog down in Atlanta?
No, I must have missed that one.
So on Zero Hedge, it's a financial page. I'm just scrolling down, and you see this robot on patrol in a parking lot outside apartment buildings. And I'm like, those crazy Californians. So I open it up, and it turns out it's Atlanta, and people are filming this thing. But what really upset people wasn't just like, oh, my God, I got robots walking the parking lots. It's that it interacted with them with a voice. It spoke to them.
A talking dog robot.
Now, it's not talking. It's someone in India talking to you because they can see you through the camera on the robot.
Yeah, sure.
Like, hey, get off the car.
My Ring camera. Yeah, get off my porch. My Ring camera can do that for me. Yeah.
And then so it started the discussion this morning of, does a foreign country get to deploy technology here to provide a service of security, but not, in essence, it could be surveillance techware. I got your biometrics. I looked at your face. I got your voice. That's your car. I got your license plate number. I'm pacing out this whole thing and taking a survey of the complex. Back in the days before we had that, back in the 80s, we had agents all over the world, and they go into public buildings in every country. And they'd go in and take cameras and pace things out and measure things and look at how thick the gauge is on a railroad, for instance, and report back. And that's how we knew schematics for our adversaries.
For crying out loud, Pearl Harbor, in the weeks and months leading up to Pearl Harbor, Japanese college students with cameras. Hey, there's their Navy installation. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just a tourist. Whatever. Right. That's as old as that is as old as armies and military.
Sure. But I also get worried if someone has some kind of authority over you through a robot in another country, it's easy to be a tough guy. Like, you know what? I can see why maybe you're put off by my robot, but I'm reporting you. I'm going to cite you a citation. I'm going to report you to the authorities because you're not actually there having a personal engagement.
Right. I'm more worried about, honestly, as far as that goes, I'm more worried about, the first 10 minutes of RoboCop. It's not that there was anything nefarious. The technology just went sideways.
You had 3 seconds to comply.
Yeah, exactly. They couldn't figure out how to shut it off. They'd lost control of it. It was, it just suddenly malfunctioned, and a couple of people met really bad ends.
Well, let's get back to Earth and people actually engaging. Also international. what did you think about the Masters? I know you watched it yesterday.
Oh, I was glued yesterday. I was in and out of it the first 3 days, but yesterday the weather was so nice. I'm out on the deck. I got the grill. I got the dogs. My wife would stick her head outside from time to time. No, I was locked in. That tradition, unlike any other stuff, it really is. It's one of the great sporting events, certainly in Georgia and around the thing that growing up in Georgia as a kid, and I didn't know which end of the golf club to hold, but I knew it was this big event that the rest of the world cared about, and it was in my state, and that was a really cool thing that has stayed with me all these years. I've had the occasion to go over the years. It really is a special place. And to see it, I said this earlier, golf fans know this, and I think most of them have the same idea. You might have a sentimental favorite or a rooting interest, but really you just want to see people make shots. You're rooting for everybody to be successful in golf. If it's my team versus your team in football, I want your kicker to miss the field goal so my team doesn't lose the game. I'm rooting against that guy. Never root against anybody in golf.
It's just individual effort. Yeah. The guy's on a team. It's just Bob with a club, and I'm rooting for Bob all day long.
Yep.
I got a chance to go down there. Well, I had to be about 98, 99, and just I got to watch Tiger Woods. He had just won in '97. He was it. And he was very kind, very very nice to the crowd, very focused. But until you watch some of these guys actually tee off, you think, oh, I could do that. It is unbelievably superhuman to watch that thing just launch.
I was there in '91, and it was a practice round before the thing started. I was working in Augusta at the time, and Greg Norman walked by, just out there in his practice round. I thought, wow. So when people say swagger, that's what they mean. That's what swagger looks like. Okay, now I got it. The idea, how cocky do you have to be to believe that you can make a great living playing the game of golf? But yet here are these guys. It's called masters for a reason. These are people who have mastered to the extent that the game can be mastered. They've mastered it.
Now you're just doing it for the name, image, likeness. My goodness.
Quickly, one of the things I always point out about the Masters, people see it on TV. First of all, you think that Augusta National is out in the woods someplace, out in the forest and out in the meadow someplace. It's right on Washington Road, the main drag through Augusta. I mean, there's like McDonald's right across the street. It's the most counterintuitive thing. They never show you, CBS will never show you anything outside those gates. You don't see downtown Augusta. You don't see Washington Road. You don't see anything but what Augusta National wants you to see, and the only thing they want you to see is that golf course and that golf. They're not showing you celebrities. Hey, look, here's a celebrity at like a basketball game. Hey, there's Jack Nicklaus. No, they're just showing you the golf.
There's people up in Michigan going, honey, I watched the Masters. Georgia is beautiful. Yeah. We got to get down there.
Yeah.
Well, they never tell you the crowd size either.
No.
And it feels to me, as I watched it, that it looks a lot larger than when I went in 98, 99.
Yeah, I don't know. It fluctuates and varies as to how many people they let in a given year. I really don't know what that is anymore. But you're right, especially in watching the final few holes. And of course, the final few holes are different on Sunday because everybody is there at 17 and 18. Everybody who's on the course is now there. That Thursday afternoon, they're spread out over 18 holes.
I don't think you can even take cell phone pictures, can you?
You can't take the cell phone.
That's right.
That's a cell phone free zone. It's like your kid in the classroom anymore. They take the phone away.
People don't know what to do now. They get a disposable camera.
They get out there. Yeah, sure. They get out there and they enjoy it. Is what they do. Every person who goes and tells you, yeah, it's nice to be away from that phone for a little while.
Well, I'll tell you who else I root for every year, and it's only because of the weather. We started this whole show talking about the weather and heat. But it seems like the previous 3 years, we always got that really bad frost. Mm-hmm. And those poor groundkeepers, I mean, they've already started working on the course for next year. And they get that close and have everything freeze over.
Well, the drought now, I began to notice this on Sunday, especially up around some of those greens. You're not used to seeing brown. You saw some because, again, the drought that is now impacting literally 98% of the state.
Well, I thought the coverage was great. I love how they have cameras on so many holes. You can actually pick which channel you want to watch now.
The worst thing in the world is to be there. We were watching it a few years ago, and it's a little bit like yesterday. You've got 12 golfers within 2 shots of the lead and 3 holes to play, whatever it was. And Leslie, my wife, said, wouldn't it be great to be there? I said, no, it'd be terrible to be there. You can only see what's in front of you if you're there. Yeah. I'm seeing every shot here on TV. I know what's going on. Golf is that sport where, unlike the football game or a baseball game, the whole sport, the whole game is down there in front of you. No, it's scattered over any number of acres. in a golf
Well,
tournament.
that's true. But if you sit at one hole, and again, as I point out, watch these guys tee off, it's so impressive. You're like, I don't need to see other stuff.
Well, Augusta, I did it. I was there for 2 days the first time I went, and I was there for 2 days, and I did that. The first day I said, okay, I'm just going to sit here and see the golfers come by. Hey, there goes Jack, and there comes Arnie, and there comes Greg Norman, and whoever. And so I saw golfers. The second day, I said, okay, I need to see this golf course. And so I got behind Nick Faldo, whoever he's playing with, and I followed him for 18 holes. And so in 2 days, I saw every golfer, because it was a Thursday, Friday. I saw every golfer, and then I saw the golf course. I highly recommend that way of doing it.
During the practice rounds, I was fortunate enough to see Arnold Palmer. Now, I'm sitting up in the bleachers, and he just flubbed the shot, went into the water. He dropped it again, swung, went in the water. He didn't care. He's older. He wasn't going to be in the match. He's just showing up to be there. And one of the referees, even though it's just like kind of practice, he's like, you have to come down here and drop the drop the ball here because you went in the water. And he looked at him, and you could hear him up in the bleachers like, I know the rules. I'm Arnold Palmer, and I'll put the ball wherever I want.
And he would, and he did.
Yeah, that was a fantastic thing. So what else is going on in this world?
Well, we got really interesting. As I say, early voting in Georgia's primary election starts 2 weeks from today, April 27th, today's 13th. Yeah, so 2 weeks from today, we're 5 weeks and 1 day away from the gubernatorial primaries. And I'm just fascinated now by this Rick Jackson, Burt Jones fight to the finish in the race to be Georgia's next governor. I mean, get your popcorn ready. This one, and it was so unexpected because for a long time there, Burt Jones was just kind of going through the motions. He's got the nomination and he'll beat whatever Democrat is, and he's going to be our next governor. And now all of a sudden he may not be the nominee.
Yeah, I saw that. And it hasn't been long. Has it even been 2 months?
It's been about 6 weeks since, I believe, 7 weeks since Rick Jackson. Okay, who's Rick Jackson? Said everybody.
100%. I saw my first commercial. Then it was just flooded on everything. And then I'm hearing good things about him anyways, and bad things.
Sure.
So it'll be interested to see how that rolls out. How about what's going out out there in California with Swalwell?
Yeah.
Can we just be done with him? I guess we are.
Well, I think we are. Yeah,
now that
he's dropped out of the governor's race, and there are calls for him to leave Congress. He, of course, would have to be, I suppose there are things that could be done to expel him, but beyond that is just pressure him to leave and give up his seat. I want to back away for a moment, and listen, nobody's a bigger Swalwell critic than me. Doing what he was doing with a Chinese spy for as long as he was doing it, it's all terrible. But some of the things now that have forced him to give up his race for governor, he's never going to be the governor of California or anything else, there is a measure of due process here. And I know we're not talking about prosecuting him criminally, but now you're talking about yanking the guy out of a congressional seat to which he was duly elected. I need something by way of evidence. And again, the burden of proof is in a different place, but I'm always, whenever I see the mob going after somebody, I always wonder, if we aren't getting out there a little prematurely.
Well, a little bit, but I think after all these Epstein files and the talks and the things that we see and hear, we're like, we just want to see someone prosecuted or just held accountable.
Well,
Don't have to send you to jail.
Yeah, and that also concerns me because you're going to, and that's my whole concern with this Epstein file business. Yeah. We got two political parties, each of which believes that all of their political adversaries can be vanquished if we can just get a list of names out there. My team can beat your team if we can just get those names out there. And how many innocent people get hurt along the way is of no consequence to anybody. That's a mob. And that's a lynch mob, a political lynch mob. And I'm very much opposed to anything that even resembles that. And this resembles it a lot.
We don't want that. We do want accountability. We want justice. Mostly, in God we trust. We've just lost trust in this government. So we talked about Artemis and how wonderful that was. We talked about us watching the Apollo missions as kids. And yet, it has to have been the last 2 years, maybe because of YouTube, there's a lot of people like, yeah, we didn't go to the moon. Couldn't have made it. Well, and I say that, not that I'm not here to have that argument. We have such a high level of distrust now for all things government. We don't believe anything we're told.
No, that vaccine doesn't work. That vaccine will kill you.
Elections were stolen.
Elections were stolen. We didn't go to the moon. All these hoaxes and things. Yeah, no, nobody believes anything anymore. Nobody trusts any kind of authority anymore.
Joe Biden was completely of sound mind the whole 4 years he was in office.
Or that was a body double. That wasn't him at all. You know, that kind of stuff. People believe anything.
Well, that was probably true.
Maybe so.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think that until we start holding people accountable for bad behavior, the rest of us go through life going, wow, if I miss one payment on my tax bill or something of that nature, I go too fast down the street, you're going to jack up my insurance to punish me and give me a ticket. And you're just like, wow, you know, at what point can I just go back? It wasn't just the Apollo missions that made the 70s special. It was also just that freedom, that going outside and not really having all this.
Well, and okay, let's not get too waxy nostalgic on this, because through much of that same time period, we were sending kids to a meat grinder in Vietnam.
Oh, that's true. But we also had 8-track tapes. I'm just kidding. Fair trade-off. Well, let's see. Now, we got the Pope, I think, going down to Africa. Have you heard?
He's there. He's in
that?
Algeria, I think it was, or Algiers. I saw him making some remarks this morning. I have done my level best to steer clear of this Trump versus Pope controversy. One of the things I will say, as an Reformed evangelical, I don't have to care what the Pope says, and so I choose not to.
100%. Well, of course. But I do look at, I've heard that there's an awful lot of killings going on, and not just in Africa, but that Christians are being targeted.
Oh, sure. Nigeria, that's been going on. And Donald Trump, to his credit, is speaking out against it and trying to get something done about it.
Yeah. And so anyone that goes out there, Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian, I don't care. I was going to make a crack about Scientology. But if you're going to go out there, you know, there it was. I used my filter, then I just said it anyways.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But if you're going to go out there and try and help calm down, I'm tired of the killing and all of this again. You know, so many years later.
Well, you're in the wrong world.
I know,
my friend, my brother. It is a fallen world. It's a sinful world. And the one thing I always say to my fellow Christians is that you can be saddened by these things. You can be disappointed. You can be angered. The one thing you cannot be is surprised.
Yeah.
You cannot be surprised when you read and hear and see of the things. You're told to expect these things. These things are coming. These things are going to get worse long before they get eternally better.
I didn't expect to get theological today, but I'll tell you, one of the best lessons I just learned this whole Easter season came yesterday. And the sermon I was being given at church, you know, he took the cross for us. He could have got down at any time.
Sure.
And now that he died, we're like, well, why is the world so awful? And he's like, this is the cross we bear now. You know? The world is awful, and how you embrace it and accept it kind of measures your faith.
I once had this conversation. I taught a Sunday school class, and I tossed this out to the class. I said, what if there was some great awakening, and literally every human being on planet Earth became a Christian? A believer in Christ and a follower of Christ. What if that happened over a period of a few days? And all of a sudden, wouldn't that be great? Yeah. Would it be perfect? Far from it. Why? Because those would still be people. Those would still be fallen people in a fallen world. It would be better in a lot of important ways, but it would be far from perfect.
And there'd still be death. There'd still be illness. There'd still be accidents. And people would say, why me?
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
giving you the 2-minute warning there.
She is giving us the 2-minute warning. What did you talk about this morning?
What did I? Oh goodness!
What's going on in?
I could do a better job of telling you what I'm going to talk about tomorrow than I could of telling you what I'm going to talk. What I did talk about this morning. I am so always focused on tomorrow. It's a terrible habit that I have.
I'm going to tell you something that broke my heart this weekend because I'm more about politics and I love Augusta. I love sports. I'm not really a sports guy, but I appreciate watching it. But how about President Orban over in Hungary?
Yeah, he got
losing in a landslide.
I
think he was the last statesman on this planet. And I mean that.
Yeah.
He's a nationalist. He's like, look, I'm not letting all these immigrants come in here. I'm not getting involved in any wars. I'm not going to pick a fight with Russia because he's right up on my border. Why don't you all just chill out?
I was actually, and this is maybe me not paying attention, I was actually surprised. I thought, okay, well, the one part of the world that hasn't lost its mind is Eastern Europe. And, well, now at least that portion of Eastern Europe has, to some extent, lost its mind.
100%. They went with a globalist.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when I saw it, and I realized the extent of it when I saw Obama praising the outcome of the election. And I'm like, oh boy, we're screwed now, or Hungary is.
Well, I just felt like we had one sane mind left in this world, and so I'm sorry to see him go.
Yeah, J.D. Vance over there campaigning for him just like a week ago or so.
J.D. has not had a good week.
He's supposed to be in Athens tomorrow. I don't know if he's coming. Erica Kirk and J.D. Vance invited to attend Turning Point USA event in Athens, University of Georgia's TP USA chapter. I don't know that he's going to come. Maybe. He's still billed as coming. We'll find out.
He's had a hell of a schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Tim, I just want to thank you so much for coming in today and sitting with us.
Sure.
Me and Chastity. Chastity, thank you for all you did today.
Absolutely. It's wonderful having you both on the show. Always a pleasure having Tim in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Always, especially after pulling 4 hours already.
Absolutely, I know. So thank you so much, Tim.
We don't pay you anything, but you still get time and a half of nothing.
There you go, which is union scale.
All right. Well, again, I'm Mitchell Swan, filling in for Marc McMain. This is the Marc McMain Show on FM 92.3 Real Country.